It can be very challenging to be open about a certain kind of faith you have, especially if you don't like to be part of a club which claims to have all the answers. What a pleasure for me to meet Switchfoot singer Jon Foreman in Hamburg and talk to him about life and love and stuff like that. After exchanging views about the power of music cutting and shining through the darkness of our struggles, this part 2 is about staying out of religious clubs, the search for common ground, and about the art of letting go for the sake of keeping something beautiful.
Yeah. The doctor says I'm dying, die a little every day. He's got no prescription that could take my death away. The doctor says I don't look so good. It's terminal. Some folks die in offices, one day at a time. They could live 100 years, but their souls already died. Don't let your spirit die before your body does. We're terminal. We're terminal. We're terminal. Yeah, we are the living souls with terminal hearts, terminal parts, flickering like candles, flickering like candle holes. We're fatally flawed. We're fatally flawed. Whenever I start cursing at the traffic or the phone, I remind myself that we have all got cancer in our bones. Don't yell at the dead, show a little respect. It's terminal. It's terminal. Yeah, we are the living souls with terminal hearts, terminal parts, flickering like candles, shivering like candles. We're fatally flawed. We're fatally flawed.
But yeah, so I grew up in a home. My parents, they're great. I'm big fans of them. They're great people, and they taught me how to play music,
and they encouraged you with this free-spirited attitude.
Yeah. So the first band I was ever in was a Led Zeppelin cover band. And in America, at that time, I had no idea, but at that time, everyone was looking back on Led Zeppelin saying, oh, they're with Satan, and
really?
These kind of things. But I didn't know, because my dad he never said, oh, you can't listen to that, you have to listen to something else. Yeah. Me and my house, we'd listen to, the Beatles, Aretha Franklin, Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
everyone. And so he was the one who taught me how to play all these songs. In, you know, Led Zeppelin songs, we'd talk it through, we'd learn it, and so that was my experience of, like, it was very much like there's nothing that's off limits, nothing sacred, and nothing that's off limits, you know.
Yeah, that's great. I think that you had some encounters with that too, I'm sure. I saw one again on the YouTube. This hard-headed Christianity, especially in America, but it's here too, excluding people and always wanting to be right, always wanting to tell everybody and pointing their finger.
Yeah.
Which is really a cruel thing for me, especially within Christianity, because it's got to be about love, and it's got to be about having tolerance toward things you don't understand or don't like or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw a video where some of those fundamentalistic Bible Belt Christians were waving their banners in front of a concert hall where you played.
Yeah.
It's like last year or 2 years ago, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, last year.
And you came out. It was amazing to watch that video. But they were all like, Jon Foreman's got to read the Bible more. Or he's lost it, or he's from Satan.
We're bringing people to hell. And
yeah. And I found that great that you got out to see those people. I mean, you couldn't do much.
Yeah. I mean, well, the thing is like I'm always trying to figure out, well, we've got our differences, you know, but what do we see the same on, you know? Because the thing that I admire about them is their passion. Yeah. And that's something that I can say, okay, well, I like that. You guys are fired up. You're standing out here in the cold, shouting at people all day. That's a lot of work, you know?
It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, and so for me, it's like, okay, well, I feel like, what if we could have a conversation, we could talk, and maybe we could redirect that passion towards something that would be more constructive. How great would that be, you know?
Yeah.
It didn't happen, but I did. They've protested us a lot, and I don't know why we're on their list, but we're bringing people to hell, is what they're saying.
I know why you're on the list, because so much love in your music. It's really what spoils the idea of being right, because I think in love and grace, the question of being right is not that important.
Yeah.
It's just kind of washes it away.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of that is driven by fear, you know, and we've all got our fears, and you know, I've got my fears, and maybe that's a good place we can start with.
But it takes real self-reflection and honesty to see if your love is based on fear or based on grace.
Yeah, that we were talking about the song God Badge, and I think we all have this propensity to say, okay, I'm scared of being wrong, so I'm gonna yell louder because then people think I'm right. Maybe I'll even convince myself that I'm right, you know. But we have a saying on the bus, just because you're louder doesn't mean you're right. So, you know, sometimes it's the guy who's quiet in the corner. Yeah. That's the guy who's right, because he's not trying to convince anyone, you know. Yeah. If I told you this is blue, you won't be offended. You might even feel a little sad for me, or like, you know, you might try to convince me otherwise, but you're not going to start yelling at me, telling me, that's right.
I would just try to convince you that it's green.
Yeah, perfect. Like a good friend.
But this especially in Christianity, I have the feeling, and we do as a band too, and I do in my books and my work too, it's like sometimes I have the urge to stand up against what Christianity does. I mean, not only what it does in the years and in the Crusades and whatever they did, but what they're doing now. It's like still I have the feeling we should be open to talk about it and say, hey folks, it's not cool what you're doing. Excluding everyone, because I think in the figure and what I see in Jesus is like, as he said in the highest commandment, which for me is the most significant Bible passage ever. He said, because he's asked what's the meaning of life, basically, how is life working for us all? And he says, love God and love thy neighbor as thyself, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I can't seem to get the idea of bashing people who are different.
Yeah, I think clubs in general, like anything can become a club where you're not cool enough, you're not similar enough, you know. And when you talk about a genre of Christian music, I think that's my fear of being labeled in the club. I don't want to be in the club. I want to be a free-thinking soul that's free to embrace people and talk about things, you know. And I feel like it's interesting as you talk about Christ, and I would say if he were here on the planet, I don't know that he would be a Christian musician. If he had his songs, right? If his, you know, he traveled around from town to town, and you couldn't quite call it a performance, and it's certainly not singing, but it's similar, you know. He had his stories, his narratives that he'd tell, and he was very reluctant to side with the religious right fundamentalists of his time. Yeah. And so I think, I mean, you call it punk rock, but then even punk rock becomes a club, and you have to do this, you have to say that, you know. I think, it's interesting that as humans, we end up putting the boxes up so quick.
Yeah, it seems that we are kind of like dependent on that, trying to belong. Maybe that's what it is. But it's still a club. It's like, and I think it's sad because the church, I don't know, in my feeling, in my heart, is like should be a place where you can really be like you are.
Yeah, I had one of my heroes told me one time that God doesn't need a lawyer, you need to be honest. Yeah. And so, as a songwriter, that's your job. Yeah. And so, for me, that means that God's big enough there's no, like, you can throw punches, you can ask big questions, you can you overturn the money tables in the temple, and I think, you know, God's not offended by those things. I think for me, the unasked questions, I mean, it feels like it does, if you truly believe in God, it does him a disservice to say, well, I can't really ask any real questions about, you know, why is there genocide? Why is this innocent girl gunned down in the streets in America? Why are these things happening? You know, I think those are the things that's where God is found, is not by hiding from those things and putting up the boxes, but like entering into those worlds of question and doubt and fear.
Yeah. The Buddhists have a great saying, if you see the Buddha, kill the Buddha. You know that? It's like the Buddha is like a synonym for truth in this case. Yeah. So if you find the big truth in your life, just skip it, drown it, shoot it, whatever.
There's another one that's like that. I think it was a German theologian. I want it. It's like something along the lines of, I want to let go of God so I can hold on to God. Yeah. You know, and I want to unlearn God so I can learn God, because we all have these ideas of what God is, and the moment we let go of those small-minded things, we can actually see something bigger, you know.
Yeah, but again, it might take real courage to let go of what we assume we are.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrifying. Yeah. I mean, in any relationship, it's terrifying.
Yeah. You personally, when we're talking about God and Christ, for you personally, can it be, in any way, can it be anything but love and grace?
There's a book, another German theologian that wrote a book called Dare We Hope That All Men Might Be Saved. And he talks about the idea that Christ came to draw all men to himself, that none should perish, in these very all-inclusive terms. And yet you have those passages juxtaposed with, you know, hell and judgment and these things. So, I mean, I think that's the wrestle is where does that fit in? Where for the man who's gunning down kids in the Congo and training child soldiers, is there judgment for him? I mean, is there a consequence? I think for me, that's a wrestle that I dropped out of school, so I'll just read books about people talking about that. But I think from my own personal part of it is not to be judge. And so that frees me to attempt to love and attempt to forgive and attempt to find the common ground. Yeah. And then suddenly that allows, you know, a different spirit in the room rather than judgment. So that's where I land on the, you know, that coin toss.
Yeah. I have to think of one thing. I thought about that last night. After I saw that interview where you said that you have a rougher time with believing that God loves you than that He's there. I saw your movie Fading West.
Yeah.
This was the last Switchfoot album and the accompanying movie, which is great too. It's a kind of like surfing movie.
Yeah, surfing.
It's a surfing film, right?
Yeah, I surfed in Munich the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
It was the river.
Did you import some waves, or how do you?
No, there's like that river, the wave that forms on the river right by the bridge.
Oh, really?
And there's these guys. They've got a surf shop, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. Not quite surfing, but it was really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
When I saw that movie, there's one passage in it which is very, very touching and very personal. You have to leave the band in Australia because your little daughter at home needs you.
Yeah.
And is sick and needs surgery, and it's very touching to watch it. And I thought while watching that the love of God is in that film anyhow, but because of that scene. Because it's like a father or a parent just leaving everything behind to be with the one he loves or the ones he loves. I found that very touching because I thought it's
yeah, I never thought of it that way. Yeah,
it's in your life. I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know, and encourage everyone to see the movie.
Thanks. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way. Yeah, the movie was interesting. In a song, you can hide behind metaphor and poetry and melody. Yeah. But when you're showing a documentary, it's like, this is the way it happened, and how much do you show, and where do you turn the cameras off? Yeah. But there's no hiding, you know. You kind of you either show it or you don't.
Yeah, it was brave to leave that in.
Yeah, we just thought, you know, all the songs come from pain and places of brokenness and wrestling with things, and so to not have any of that in the film felt like, you know, well, that it's just some sort of like rock and roll surfing commercial or something, you know. Yeah.
Yeah. If you would be forced in a little low-budget German TV talking format, asked by a punk rockish folk singer what the meaning of life is, how could you sum that up for you?
I mean, we talked about the great commandment, love God and love others. I feel like that's probably pretty much it. I think another one, the purpose of man is to love God and enjoy Him forever, and I think for me that element of joy is needed, because joy can only happen when you have the eyes of a child, and you take your place in this. You don't take yourself too seriously, and you're allowed into a position where you're free, and I feel like that joy, that's what I'm looking for, that, and I think wonder is another thing, that the moment you can look at life and say, wow, this is incredible, this is amazing, that'd be somewhere in there, would be where I'm looking for life to exist.
Okay. I thank you so much for this conversation. I wish you all the best and all the blessings in the world. And for you and the band, please say hi to them from us. And I'm wishing us all that we love your music and your art, that until you die, you keep singing these songs on the shores of Babylon. Thanks a lot, man.
Great questions.
Great answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are the living souls with terminal hearts, terminal parts, flickering like candles, shivering like candles. We're fatally flawed. We're fatally flawed. Yeah, we are the living souls with terminal parts, terminal hearts, flickering like candles. Yeah, we're shivering like candles. We're fatally flawed. We're fatally flawed. We are the living souls with terminal hearts, terminal parts, flickering like candles, we're shivering like candles. We're fatally flawed in the image of God. That was for you and your mom.